Hello, everyone. I'm Ginny
And I'm Kevin.
from Into English Podcast.
Welcome back to a new episode.
Today, we're talking about something I think almost everyone has felt at some point in life.
Even if they don't always say it out loud, that moment when you feel pulled in two different directions.
On one side, you want freedom. You want to try something new, change your life, explore different options.
And on the other side, you want stability. You want something predictable, something safe, something you can rely on.
And the difficult part is, both of those things feel important.
Yes, it's not like one is clearly right and the other is wrong.
Exactly. Sometimes choosing stability feels like you're limiting yourself.
But choosing freedom can feel risky, even a little overwhelming.
So the question becomes, how do you choose between the two?
And even more importantly, how do you choose in a way that you won't regret later?
Because most people are not just choosing between two options.
They're also dealing with fear, pressure, expectations, and their own doubts.
So in this episode, we're not just asking which one is better,
We're going to explore why this decision feels so difficult in the first place.
and how you can approach it in a more thoughtful and realistic way. Let me start with a situation that I think a lot of people will recognize. There are moments when you already know what you want to do. Maybe you want to change your job, start something new, or simply live differently. But instead of moving forward, you stay where you are.
And then you start questioning yourself.
Yes, you might think, why can't I just decide? Or why do I keep hesitating?
Many people interpret that hesitation as a weakness.
Like they are not brave enough or not confident enough.
But I don't think that's the real reason.
So what is it?
I think the hesitation comes from something much more basic. Your brain is designed to protect you before anything else.
Protect me in what way?
Protect you from uncertainty, from risk, from situations that could go wrong. If something feels predictable, your brain relaxes. If something feels uncertain, your brain becomes more alert.
So when we choose stability, we are not just choosing a lifestyle, we're also choosing a sense of safety.
Yes, and that sense of safety is very powerful. Even if the situation is not perfect, the fact that it is familiar makes it easier to stay.
That explains why people can stay in situations they don't really enjoy.
Exactly, because leaving that situation introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty always comes with questions.
Questions like, what if this doesn't work? What if I make a mistake? What if I regret it later?
And those questions don't always have clear answers.
Which makes it even harder to move.
There's also another important point here. People tend to feel the pain of losing something more strongly than the satisfaction of gaining something.
Can you give an example?
Of course. Let's say you were thinking about leaving a stable job. On one side, you might gain freedom, flexibility, and new opportunities. But on the other side, you might lose a steady income, a routine, and a sense of security.
So even if the potential gain is exciting, the possible loss feels heavier.
Yes, and that emotional weight influences the decision. It's not always logical, it's often emotional.
That makes a lot of sense, because when people think about change, they don't only imagine what they could gain, they also imagine everything that could go wrong.
And those negative possibilities tend to stay in the mind longer.
So in a way, choosing stability is not always about wanting stability, it's about avoiding risk.
That's a good way to put it.
I also feel like there is another layer. Sometimes the pressure does not only come from inside us.
You mean from other people?
Yes, from family, from society, from expectations around us.
That's true. There are many messages we grow up with, such as you should have a stable career, you should not take unnecessary risks, you should be responsible.
So even if you personally want to try something different, you may feel like you are going against those expectations.
And that creates another level of conflict, because now it's not just your decision,
It feels like your decision might affect how other people see you,
or whether they approve of your choices.
which can make you hesitate even more.
Yes, because now the risk is not only practical, it becomes emotional and social as well.
I think this explains why many people delay making decisions.
They tell themselves they are thinking it through or waiting for the right time.
But in reality, they might just be avoiding the discomfort of choosing.
And there is something important to understand here. Not choosing is also a form of choosing.
Can you explain that more clearly?
If you stay in the same place, if you keep doing the same thing, you're choosing stability by default. Even if you don't say it out loud, that is still a decision.
So staying still is not neutral.
Exactly. It still shapes your life.
That's interesting because many people feel like they are not ready yet,
But time continues to move forward.
which means their situation continues as well.
Yes, and over time that can turn into a feeling of being stuck.
So instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" maybe the better question is, "What is really happening inside me?"
That shift in understanding is important because once you see that this conflict is natural, you stop being so hard on yourself.
And you start looking at it more clearly.
Yes, you begin to realize that this is not a simple choice between two options,
It's a balance between safety and possibility.
and both sides have a role.
I like that idea because it removes the pressure of trying to find a perfect answer.
Instead, it becomes a process of understanding yourself better.
All right, so now that we understand why this conflict exists,
Let's take a closer look at one side of it.
what does stability actually give us?
Because I think many people overlook its value.
Before we move on too quickly, I think we need to slow down a little here, because a lot of people talk about stability like it's something boring or something you need to escape from, but I don't think that's always fair.
I agree. Stability often gets a bad reputation. People associate it with being stuck, being repetitive, or not growing. But stability actually plays a very important role in your life.
So instead of seeing it as a limitation, maybe we should understand what it actually gives us.
Exactly. Let's start with something very simple. Stability gives you predictability. You know what your day looks like. You know what to expect. You know how things usually turn out.
And that predictability reduces a lot of mental pressure because you don't have to constantly think about what might happen next.
Yes, it lowers uncertainty, and that helps your mind stay calm. Another important thing is that stability reduces decision fatigue.
That's interesting. Can you explain that?
When your life is stable, many decisions are already made for you. You don't have to think about everything from the beginning every day. For example, if you have a stable routine, you don't need to decide what to do every morning.
So your energy is not wasted on small, repetitive decisions.
Exactly. And that saved energy can be used for more important things.
I think that's something people don't always realize. They think stability is limiting, but actually it can free up mental space.
Yes, and there's another layer. Stability creates a sense of safety, and when people feel safe, they can function better.
That's very true. When you feel safe, you sleep better, you think more clearly, and you make better decisions.
Right. If you are constantly worried about basic things like income, structure, or security, it becomes very hard to focus on anything else.
So in a way, stability gives you a foundation.
That's the best way to describe it. It's not the final goal, but it's the base you build on.
I also feel like stability helps people build discipline because when you have a consistent environment, it's easier to develop habits.
Yes, consistency comes more naturally in a stable structure, and over time, those small habits can lead to long-term progress.
So stability is not just about staying the same. It can actually support growth, but in a slower, more controlled way.
Exactly. Growth doesn't always have to be dramatic or risky. Sometimes it's quiet and steady.
I like that because I think many people feel pressure to always choose the exciting path.
Yes, but excitement is not always sustainable.
And sometimes what people really need is not more excitement, but more stability.
That's an important point. If someone is already overwhelmed or tired, adding more uncertainty is not always the right solution.
So choosing stability can actually be a very smart decision.
Yes, especially when it matches your current situation.
But at the same time, I feel like there's a limit.
What do you mean?
If everything becomes too stable, it can start to feel repetitive or even empty.
That's true. And I think that's a good transition to the next part.
Okay, so now let's look at the other side. Because freedom sounds very attractive, people often imagine it as having more control, more choices, more space to live the way they want.
Yes, freedom is often associated with possibility. You can decide your schedule, explore new ideas, and change direction when you want.
But I feel like people don't always talk about the cost of that freedom.
They usually don't, because the idea of freedom is very appealing, but the reality of freedom can be challenging.
So, what are some of those challenges?
The first one is uncertainty. When you choose freedom, you also accept that things are not guaranteed. You don't always know what will happen next.
And that can feel uncomfortable because there's no clear structure.
Exactly. You don't have a fixed routine, you don't have a clear path, and sometimes you don't have immediate results.
I think that's where people start to struggle, because without structure, it's easy to feel lost.
Yes, and that leads to another cost. Freedom requires self-management.
Meaning you have to manage your own time, your own energy, and your own decisions.
Exactly. When no one is telling you what to do, you have to create your own direction. That sounds good in theory, but in reality, it can be difficult.
Very difficult, because now you don't have external pressure pushing you forward. Everything depends on your internal discipline.
And not everyone is used to that.
Yes, many people perform well in structured environments, but struggle when that structure is removed.
So freedom gives you more control, but it also gives you more responsibility.
That's a key point. And with more responsibility comes more pressure. I also think freedom can create a different kind of stress. Not the stress of too much structure, but the stress of too many choices.
That's true. When you have too many options, it becomes harder to decide, and sometimes you keep questioning your decisions.
Like, is this the best choice? Should I be doing something else?
Exactly. And that constant questioning can be mentally exhausting.
So even though freedom looks like a release, it can actually create a different kind of pressure.
Yes, and there is one more thing. When you have freedom, you also lose excuses.
Oh, what do you mean?
In a structured environment, if something doesn't go well, you can sometimes blame the system, the schedule, or external factors. But when you are fully in control, the responsibility comes back to you.
So if things don't work out, you have to face that directly.
Yes, and that can be uncomfortable.
I can see why some people prefer stability, because it feels safer, not just practically, but also emotionally.
Exactly. Freedom is powerful, but it's not easy. It requires clarity, discipline, and a strong sense of direction.
So if we summarize this part, freedom is not just about doing whatever you want.
It's about managing uncertainty, making decisions, and taking responsibility.
And if you're not prepared for that, freedom can feel overwhelming instead of exciting.
Yes, and that's why choosing between freedom and stability is not simple.
Because both sides have real value and real challenges.
Exactly, and that's where the real conversation begins.
So after everything we've discussed, I feel like many people might still be waiting for a clear answer. They might be thinking, okay, I understand both sides, but I still need to choose one direction. And honestly, that's how we've been taught to think.
Yes, we tend to frame decisions as either this or that. It feels more comfortable when things are clearly separated. You choose one path and you commit to it. But with this topic, that way of thinking can actually create more problems.
Why do you say that? Because from the outside, it seems reasonable. If stability works, then commit to stability. If freedom is better, then go all in.
That logic works in simple situations, but here, both options are not complete on their own. When you stay only in stability for a long time, you start to notice something subtle. At first, everything feels organized and under control. You know what your days look like, your responsibilities are clear, and your life feels structured. But gradually, that structure stops feeling supportive and starts feeling limiting.
So the same thing that once helped you begins to hold you back.
Yes, and the change is usually slow. It doesn't happen in one moment. It builds over time. You begin to feel like your life is repeating itself, not in a dramatic way, but in small, quiet patterns.
I think many people recognize that feeling. It's not that their life is bad, but it doesn't feel meaningful or exciting anymore.
That's the key point. Too much stability reduces variation, and without variation, it becomes harder to grow, to explore, or even to feel engaged.
So, stability creates comfort, but it can also create stagnation.
Yes, especially when it becomes the only thing you rely on. Now, if we look at the other side, the same pattern appears, but in a different form.
You mean with freedom?
Yes. At first, freedom feels open and full of possibilities. You have more choices, more control, more flexibility. But if there's no structure to support that freedom, things can become unstable.
I think this is where people start to feel confused, because they expect freedom to feel light and positive, but sometimes it feels heavy.
That's because freedom increases responsibility. When there is no structure, you have to create your own, and that requires clarity, discipline, and consistency.
So instead of feeling free, you can start to feel uncertain, like you're responsible for everything, but not always sure what to do next.
Exactly. And that uncertainty can slowly turn into stress. Not the kind of stress that comes from too much work, but the kind that comes from not having a clear direction.
So on one side, stability can limit you. On the other side, freedom can overwhelm you.
Yes, and when people don't understand this, they often move back and forth between the two. They stay in stability until they feel stuck, then they move toward freedom, but feel lost, and then they return to stability again.
That explains why some people feel like they're repeating the same cycle. They change something, but the feeling doesn't really go away.
Because the issue is not the choice itself, it's the assumption that one side alone will solve everything.
So the real problem is not choosing wrong, but expecting one choice to give you everything you need.
That's exactly it.
So if neither stability nor freedom can fully work on its own, then what should people actually aim for? Because balance sounds good, but it can also feel a bit vague.
That's a fair point. When people hear the word balance, they often imagine something perfectly equal. But in reality, balance is something you design based on your situation. It's not fixed, and it's not the same for everyone.
So instead of thinking in terms of choosing, we should think in terms of building something.
Yes, building is a better way to approach it. Think of stability as the foundation of your life. It gives you support, reduces risk, and creates a sense of order. Then think of freedom as the space where you grow. It allows you to explore new ideas, test different directions, and expand your possibilities.
So one gives you structure and the other gives you movement.
Exactly. And when you combine them intentionally, you get something much more sustainable.
I think what makes this difficult is that people often believe they need to make a big decision, like leaving everything behind to pursue freedom, or committing fully to stability and letting go of everything else.
Yes, and that kind of thinking creates unnecessary pressure because it turns the situation into a one-time decision, when in reality, it's something you can adjust over time.
So instead of asking, what is the right choice for my whole life, a better question might be, what is the right balance for me right now?
That's a much more useful question, because your needs change depending on your situation. At some points in life, you may need more stability. At other points, you may need more freedom.
So the balance is not static, it evolves.
Yes, and here's an important idea. Stability can actually support freedom. For example, if you have a stable income or a stable routine, you can take smaller, controlled risks without putting everything at risk.
So instead of jumping into uncertainty, you're creating a safe way to explore it.
Exactly. You are not removing risk completely, but you are managing it in a way that feels more sustainable.
And I assume the opposite is also true. Freedom can support stability in some way.
Yes. When you explore new ideas or directions, you may discover better opportunities, better ways of working, or better ways of living. Over time, those discoveries can strengthen your overall stability.
So it's not a conflict anymore. It's more like a system where both sides support each other.
That's a good way to see it. Freedom expands your future. Stability protects your present.
That makes the whole topic feel much less stressful, because now it's not about making a perfect choice.
It's about making thoughtful adjustments.
And giving yourself permission to change that balance when needed.
Yes, because what works for you today may not work for you a year from now.
I think that's an important takeaway. You don't need to figure everything out at once.
You just need to understand what you need right now and build from there.
So instead of asking, which one should I choose, we ask, how do I use both in a way that works for my life?
And once you start thinking like that, the decision becomes much clearer.
That really changes the perspective.
Yes, and it leads us to the next question. How do you actually know which one you need more at a specific moment?
Because that's where things become personal. So now we've reached the part that I think most people care about the most. It's not just understanding the problem, it's knowing what to do with it. Because even if we accept that balance is important, there's still one question left. How do you know what you personally need right now?
That's where things become more individual. There's no single answer that fits everyone, but there are a few signals you can pay attention to. And those signals are usually already there. People just don't notice them.
What kind of signals?
Let's start with something simple. Your current energy. Not just physical energy, but mental and emotional energy as well.
So how you feel day to day?
Yes, if you wake up feeling drained, overwhelmed, or constantly under pressure, that's often a sign you need more stability.
That sounds a bit surprising. I think many people assume that when they feel tired, they need a big change.
And sometimes that's true, but not always. If your system is already overloaded, adding more uncertainty can make things worse. In that case, stability helps you recover. It gives your mind a break from constant decision-making.
So stability is not just about staying safe, it can also help you reset.
Exactly. Now, on the other hand, there's a different kind of feeling. You're not overwhelmed, but you feel bored, restless, or unchallenged.
Like everything is fine, but something is missing.
Yes, that's usually a sign that you need more freedom, more variation, more challenge, something that pushes you out of your routine.
So in a way, your emotional state is giving you information.
That's a good way to see it. Instead of ignoring how you feel, you can use it as a guide.
I like that because it makes the decision feel less abstract. It becomes something you can observe in your own life.
Exactly. Now, the second factor is your life stage. What you need at one stage of your life may be very different from what you need at another.
Can you give an example?
Sure. When you're at the beginning of your career or your journey, it often makes sense to explore more. You don't have as many responsibilities, and the cost of trying different things is lower.
So that's a phase where freedom can be more valuable.
Yes, because it helps you discover what works for you. But as your life becomes more complex, with responsibilities, commitments, or people depending on you, stability becomes more important.
Because now your decisions affect more than just yourself.
Exactly. So the balance naturally shifts over time.
Which means there is no correct answer that applies forever.
Right. The mistake people often make is trying to apply the same approach to every stage of their life.
That explains why something that worked before suddenly stops working.
Yes, because your situation has changed. Now, the third factor is something a bit more personal, your tolerance for risk.
Meaning how comfortable you are with uncertainty?
Yes. Some people are naturally more comfortable taking risks. They can handle uncertainty without feeling too stressed. Others feel uncomfortable very quickly when things are not clear or predictable.
And neither one is right or wrong.
Exactly. It's just different. The problem starts when people try to copy someone else's path without understanding their own limits.
So someone might see someone else take a big risk and succeed and think they should do the same.
But they may not have the same tolerance for uncertainty, and that creates pressure.
So instead of asking what worked for them, it's better to ask what works for me.
Yes, and that requires honesty. You need to understand how much uncertainty you can handle without losing your sense of stability.
I think that
that's a very important point because many people think growth always means pushing harder, but sometimes growth also means choosing the right level of challenge.
That's a great way to say it. Growth is not just about doing more, it's about doing what fits your current capacity.
So if we bring everything together,
You can look at 3 things: your energy, your life stage, and your tolerance for risk.
and those 3 things will tell you whether you need more stability or more freedom right now.
Exactly. Not in theory, but in your actual situation.
Okay, I want to stop you right there because everything we've said so far sounds reasonable, but if I'm being honest, it still feels a bit abstract. If I'm the listener right now, I might be thinking, okay, balance sounds good, but what do I actually do tomorrow?
That's fair. Then let's make it very simple. Let's forget theory for a moment. If someone feels stuck between freedom and stability, they're usually in one of 2 situations. Either their life feels too controlled or it feels too uncertain.
So the first step is to figure out which one you're in.
Yes, but not by overthinking. Just look at your last 7 days. Not your plans, your actual behavior.
That's already more real. What should they look for?
2 questions. First, did your days feel repetitive? Second, did your days feel chaotic? If your days feel repetitive, you probably have too much stability. If your days feel chaotic, you probably have too much freedom.
That's actually very clear because people don't need to analyze their whole life. They just need to look at their recent pattern.
Exactly. Most people already know the answer, they just don't frame it that way.
Now, step 2. Don't try to fix your life. Just adjust 10 to 20% of your time. That's it.
Only 10 to 20%? That feels small.
It should feel small because if the change feels big, you won't sustain it. Let me give you 2 real examples.
Case 1. If your life feels too stable, don't quit your job. Don't change everything. Just add 1 block of uncertainty into your week, maybe 2 hours. Use that time to do something that has no guaranteed outcome. Learn something new, build something, talk to new people.
So the goal is not success, it's exposure to something different.
Yes, right now you don't need a breakthrough, you need variation. Case 2. If your life feels too chaotic, don't try to control everything. Just lock in 2 or 3 fixed points in your week. Wake up at the same time. Work in a fixed time block. Have 1 non-negotiable routine.
So instead of building a perfect system, you create a few anchors.
Exactly. You don't need full structure. You just need enough structure to feel grounded.
I like this because it removes that pressure of making a big decision. You're not choosing a new life, you're adjusting your current one.
Now, step 3. This is where most people fail. Don't expect clarity immediately.
Yeah, I think people try something once and then say, this doesn't work.
Exactly. But the purpose of these small changes is not to get instant results. It's to collect feedback. After 1 or 2 weeks, ask yourself, do I feel more alive or more tired? Do I feel more clear or more confused?
So instead of asking, did this work, you ask, how did this change my state?
Yes, because your state tells you more than your outcome. Now, step 4. And this one is uncomfortable but important. Stop romanticizing the other side.
What do you mean?
People in stable lives imagine freedom as something exciting and perfect. People in unstable lives imagine stability as something peaceful and easy. Both are incomplete pictures.
So they're chasing an idea, not the reality.
Yes, every option has trade-offs. Freedom comes with pressure. Stability comes with limitation. If you don't accept that, you'll keep switching without ever feeling satisfied.
That explains a lot, because some people keep changing direction, but they never feel settled.
Exactly. They aren't building anything, they're escaping discomfort. Now, final step, and this one is the one that really matters. Build a safe experiment.
That sounds interesting. What is that?
It means you try something new, but you design it in a way that you can't lose too much. For example, don't quit your job. Reduce hours if possible. Start something on the side. Test before committing.
So instead of jumping, you lower the risk first.
Yes, because most bad decisions don't come from wrong ideas. They come from taking the right idea with the wrong level of risk.
Okay, this part feels very different from before. It's not about choosing freedom or stability anymore. It's about managing how much of each you bring into your life.
That's the whole point. You don't need a new life. You need a better balance of what you already have.
Let me try to summarize this in a very simple way. Step 1, look at your last 7 days. Step 2, adjust a small part of your time. Step 3, observe how it affects you. Step 4, stop idealizing the other side. Step 5, test safely before committing.
That's it. Nothing complicated. But if you actually do it, your situation will start to change.
I think this is the first time in this conversation where it feels like, okay, I can actually try this.
And that's all you need. Not certainty, just a way to move forward without breaking everything.
Yeah, not a perfect answer, just a better next step.
Exactly.
I think what I like most about this conversation is that it doesn't force you to choose a side anymore. Because at the beginning, it really feels like a difficult decision. Freedom or stability, one or the other. But now it feels different.
Yes, it becomes less about choosing and more about understanding what role each one plays in your life.
And also understanding yourself a bit better. Because the answer is not the same for everyone. And it's not even the same for you at different points in your life.
That's important. What you need right now might be very different from what you needed a year ago or what you'll need next year.
So instead of trying to find a fixed answer, maybe the better approach is to stay aware and keep adjusting.
Yes, you don't need to get everything right immediately. You just need to avoid staying stuck in the same pattern without questioning it.
And I think one simple idea that stands out for me is this. You don't need a completely different life. You just need a slightly better balance.
That's a good way to put it. Small adjustments over time can change the direction of your life more than one big decision.
And that also takes away a lot of pressure because you don't have to figure everything out today.
You just need to take one step that makes sense based on where you are right now.
So if you're listening to this and you feel stuck, maybe don't ask yourself, what should I choose for the rest of my life?
Ask yourself, what small change can I make this week?
That question feels a lot more manageable.
And much more actionable.
All right, I think that's a good place to pause.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next conversation.
And if this topic made you think about your own situation, take a moment after this episode and actually reflect on it.
We'll see you in the next episode.
Take care.
Bye.